Welcome everyone to Dogmash Mindful Space on Radio Top Afrique. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday. Sorry about the last episode. I had to be cancelled due to illness, but we're back and bringing you hopefully helpful information on how to live a joyful, healthier, mindful lifestyle. So, how do you feel today? I mean, it's a Saturday. Some of you are probably relaxing, getting into the weekend mood, and maybe meeting friends, doing household shopping, working. For all of you listening, it doesn't matter where you are all over the world, I hope you can relax, sit back, and join us on this conversation for today, where we will talk about fear and anxiety. Well, today's episode is an episode which is very important to me. Like I mentioned before in the past episode, I'm a medical doctor and I deal with patients with psychological problems all the time. I'm a general practitioner, so I think the last statistics have shown that up to is either 70 to even 90% of the symptoms that bring patients to the general practitioner are more psychologically based. So our topic today is, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And I will share with you one or two patient cases of anxiety situations and how these symptoms can really demask or hide, and how to recognize them if you do have these symptoms, that they could probably or they might be as actually anxiety. And I will also explain to you the difference between fear and anxiety. And finally, we will talk about some of the tools, how to conquer being a super warrior. Well, this word or this phrase I've heard from a very remarkable motivational speaker from the 1970s called John Rowan, one of my favorite as well, that I listen to on podcasts on a regular basis. So, like I asked you before, what are your biggest fears when you're sitting down at home now, thinking about it? What are you really afraid of? I mean, we all have fears in our lives. I think whether we're 5 years old, we're 15, we're 40 or 75, everyone has fears. And I mean, even myself, I think I used to be a super warrior, to be honest. Fears are, they can be of different magnitudes, and also, of course, of the sources are also very different. Like the cause of the fears are very different. And I would say that, when you're maybe 5 years old, you're scared of things like falling down, or then when you you become a teenager, there are more fears, of course. Things like you're scared of not being enough. You're scared of for the girls not being pretty enough, the boys not having enough muscles. You're scared of not being seen. You're scared of not belonging to a type of group which you think it's cool. And when you get older, like mid-20s, we start having fears of, which career path are you going to take, and whether it's the right one, whether you have the right person that you're dating. And then you become 30, then you start having financial fears, whether you're going to have children, when, with whom, whether you're going to get married or not. And then you turn into your 40s, your body changes, you start menopause with men, with women. And of course, men go through their own type of menopause, I guess. And you go into your 50s, then, some illnesses, they start showing up. Your genes, you start getting high blood pressure for some people, or diabetes. And then the older you get, the 60s, the 70s, then you have fears of death. And fear of or anxiety is really, 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 really relevant psychological issues. I mean, overall, for the statistics, like 301 million people in the whole entire globe suffer from anxiety disorder, and the age which is more prone to have anxiety is basically between the age of 13 and 18. That means 31% of our kids, of our teenagers, they suffer a lot of anxiety problems. And it's at the moment there's been also a lot of statistics, a lot of studies which have been done, and social media is also one of the things which contribute a lot. I mean, I'm not saying social media is a bad thing. I mean, we're using social media every day. One can also use it in a positive way to spread positive messages, to share information, to motivate each other. You know, we look, you know, whether to get inspiration, whether you're doing the arts, you're designing music, and also in the medical field, it's also getting more recognition, but it has shown detrimental problems, especially among young people, if you really do not know how social, or how to deal with social media, and how much social media we're supposed to use on a daily basis. We will take a short break, and after that we will talk about the different types of fears, and also the tools one can have or use to get rid of or to deal with these different fears. Thank you. We'll just see you after the short break. Welcome back, everyone, on Mindful Space by Doc Mash. Thank you again for the music from DJ Burke. You can check him out on Instagram at Burkspace. Thank you very much for the music compiled extra for the show. Today's topic, we are talking about fear, anxiety, and the causes of, the tools, the symptoms, and this is part of one of the two series we will do. This is the first series on on fear, and the second one will be in 2 weeks. What is fear exactly? And if you look at it, well, fear is actually a very natural physiological and psychological response from our body to deal with threat. It's the body's instinct, to protect us from danger. Hundreds of years ago, when we were afraid, of course, of if, for instance, when you're in the bush, you're afraid of lions, your body will respond in a certain way. That means your cortisol would rise, your adrenaline would also rise, your blood pressure, your heart rate, you will breathe faster as well, which is absolutely normal. But there's a difference to anxiety and to the different types of fears. We have the aerophobia, the fear of flying. A lot of people know that. People are scared sitting in the airplane, going from one place to the next. They're petrified just sitting there because, of course, your thoughts are like, okay, is the plane going to crash or not? And there's also like other fears, like arachnophobia. It's the fears of things like spiders, or aquaphobia. Aquaphobia is the fear of water. I grew up in South Africa. I think I've told you guys that. We used to make fun of each other in school. I used to go to a then called mixed race school, where you have black and white kids in the school, and we used to make fun of each other as black children that we are afraid of water, because none of us then, or very little black kids, could swim. So I would say we used to say that, we all have aquaphobia, I guess. But there are other types of fears like claustrophobia, which a lot of people also know, fear of spaces or being in very small spaces. And the one which is more goes into the next topic, which is anxiety, is social phobia. The social phobia is also called social anxiety disorder, and because this one can be really quite debilitating, because it it contains you, it restricts you, it keeps you in this type of lockdown, like we've known in the past 3 years with the pandemic, that you are sort of like locked in your own mind with your own thoughts. They spiral around. And you keep on repeating the same fears over and over again, and also mostly being afraid of things which haven't happened yet, like being afraid of the future, because mostly when you're anxious of what's going to happen, of things that you do not know, which might happen next, because of things that you've probably known which happened in the past, which caused certain symptoms like pain, or even feeling a sense of being ashamed. I remember as well, like I said, I used to be a super warrior as well, somebody who used to be scared a lot. It's as a child, thinking of, for instance, doing a speech in front of the class. It was an absolute nightmare. For me, being here and talking to you, it's like totally out of my comfort zone. And because of over the years, of course, you learn and you go through the process of healing and also processing those fears, and they become less and less. But that's what the anxiety does to you, because you also social distance as well, because you're afraid that what you've experienced might come again, even though you're not in the situation already. That means one is not in the present moment. You continuously live in the future, and not knowing what the future will bring, but you are living that moment as if it's happening, and your body responds. It gives you the same symptoms as well, which we will talk about. Which we will talk about next. And I think I asked you the same question in the beginning, like, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? You know, after listening to the podcast, the past 15, 20 minutes, do you know what you're afraid of? Do you know what you're afraid of? I mean, if you have the following symptoms like dizziness, which can be a very classical symptoms of fear, and also anxiety, like having sometimes headache, like you have palpitations, your heartbeat is very irregular, or it beats very fast, or you feel like you have pins and needles in your whole body. You feel numb, tingling sensations. Also nausea, diarrhea, classical symptoms for exams, like we all been, for those who are studied or are in the middle of exams. Those are symptoms which can happen, like when before you write exams, you feel like you need to go to the toilet 100 times, or you have diarrhea and sweating, getting flushes. Those are very, very classical symptoms of fear and anxiety. But anxiety is more, like I said, it's like a spiral of a fear, which you basically feel like you are stuck in it, and you can't really leave that spiral. And it's also very important to know that the symptoms, to recognize them, and to know when it is important to get help. And because, you know, sometimes we can know that we have those symptoms, and we have our small tools that we use at home or with friends, or you call someone, or you focus on something else, which help you. But if things like, for instance, the social phobia, and they can be so extreme that people, or even young children or young kids, they can avoid going to school. And it's something that, of course, needs to be definitely dealt with. Absolutely. And what we will talk about next is also a topic which is called social atrophy. This is a topic that I recently learned from one of very, very well-known psychologists called Esther Perel. I definitely will recommend listening to her podcast. Extremely good, really extremely good, and mindful and motivating, and as well giving one a lot of insight on daily situations. And Esther Perel, you can go to her Instagram or listen to her also on YouTube and so forth. So the topic social atrophy. Well, the social atrophy means that, you know, it's like in the unwillingness to feel uncomfortable. There's a lot of things that we lose. For instance, if I ask most of you, like all of you, who have kids, do your kids play outside on the streets? And it's something that even whether you're growing up in the States, or here in Germany, or in South Africa, or in Ghana, when we were young, we used to be a lot outside, where you play with your peers, and that's where you have that stage to get into contact with things which are very uncomfortable, like you have your fights, your competitiveness, your jealousy, and that's where you learn. You have like a tool or a toolbox for social skills. and it's something that it gets lost in nowadays, because when with young kids, they spend most of the time with this so-called artificial intimacy. That means, you have, it's either that you have, people who were not really listening to you when you speak. You have your peers, you're playing, it's either PlayStation or people who usually are not present. And of course we had that through lockdown as well. And we have also a lot of technology devices which also contribute to the so-called social atrophy. That means that you're not you have things or devices helping you to decide where to go, who to date, what to eat, where to work, and things like this. They contribute to us losing those tools to learning our social skills. And by not learning those social skills, it causes also things like anxiety, because when you grow older, when you used to know how to deal with competitiveness when you're young, or fighting or jealousy, when the older you get, things like you've never had contact with people that can challenge you also on that level. And those are the things which can cause us to be anxious on a daily basis, like not knowing what to do in certain situations. And what we will talk about, what I will give you next, is an example of two patients of mine who used to come with actually symptoms which are not typical of anxiety symptoms. Like I said before, the symptoms could be like you're feeling dizzy, you're feeling numbness, palpitations, but if you do not know, you will always look for somatic problems which are causing that, then think that it is really anxiety. And one patient of mine, of course the names are not disclosed, was a 21-year-old young woman who used to suffer a lot of back pain. And she used to come on a regular basis to the practice, and we tried different things like physiotherapy and doing basic exercises, yoga, and of course pain meds as well, and like taking warm baths, massages, and she kept on coming back because none of the things really worked until we sat down together, and because at that time we sort of build up slowly a sort of like a trust between the two of us. And then I took more time to talk to the patient and ask what is really going on in her life. And then she started talking about her having moved from different city and being left by the boyfriend and being far away from home. And she literally broke down. I had palpitations and was crying and felt super overwhelmed. So it's those kind of symptoms sometimes that can like demask themselves in sort of like a somatic issue, like back pain, headache, stomach ache, diarrhea. It's why it is, for me, for my work, it is very, very important that I get to know patients and understand their situation in a holistic way, in a holistic type of way, where it is not only about the body symptoms, but also getting to know their lifestyle, their social life, and what they do and what they eat, because those are the things which can influence a lot of symptoms which patients bring to the table when they come to the doctor. And at the end, the patients, she mentioned that she really has problem sleeping as well. She feels very tense. She cannot relax, and that cause, of course, that is something which can cause like chronic backache. And for instance, when you sit all the time, you're tense, you're scared, and you do not sleep well, you do not rest, you're stressed. And it's very important as well to also put that in mind, and also ask yourself, like, do the symptoms that I have at this point, are they related to what I'm really feeling, or is it something else behind that? And that is yes, my first patient. And the second patient is, I think, a bit more, I would say it was more obvious, I guess, but still I think sometimes it's also very important that when you are a patient yourself, when the time you realize yourself that these symptoms that I'm having, they can be something else, that's when the symptoms that's when you can even relieve yourself from the symptoms that you have. It's a patient who used to come a lot of the times with palpitations, and because she was taking like thyroid medication, we thought it was that, and the next time then she had heart problems, and young patients, mid-30, and when you get more into talking to the patient, and you get more information, like when these symptoms most of the time appear, and they mostly appeared in a situation when she was with her spouse, and like palpitations, heart problem, because that's when she disclosed that they were not having a good relationship, and she used to get these anxiety attacks, and it was very important that she also realized it herself, so that she can get help, because I think, of course, it's easier for us doctors as well when the patient is also willing to share also the whole or more information included concerning their symptoms, because for us to help you the best, it's easier if, of course, the trust between the patient and the doctor is better, and that's where the patients, they feel comfortable and they can disclose more symptoms, which can lead us to a better therapy possibilities. And so remember, guys, that the anxiety can it can definitely disguise itself into absolutely different symptoms, also different illnesses. And I think what we would talk about next is what we can do on a daily basis to try to reduce anxiety. And of course, it's always important to check on with your general practitioner first, and to rule out of other somatic problems. And but the most important things that we will talk about today, we will just catch up on them, but then the rest we will talk about them more fully, and the causes of anxiety on our next or part 2 of our what are you afraid of podcast. So I would say when we go through the list, I would say definitely eating well. Having a balanced diet is super, super important when we talk about anxiety, doing exercises like yoga, going for a walk, going to the gym, even a 10 minutes walk. Things like that, they can help to reduce anxiety issues. Practicing breathing. Breathing is so important. Also deep breathing. Sometimes it's something that I also tell my patients, that when we are anxious, if you watch your breathing, we always breathe like we use like half of our lungs, like and it's something, when you take a moment, just take a deep breath, it makes a huge difference. I usually, to show even my patients, I use sometimes use a pulse oximeter, because once they breathe very fast, your heart rate goes up as well. And if they, in that moment, they use a pulse oximeter, they see the moment they breathe very deeply and slowly, by breathing in and counting to 4, and just to stop the breathing for another 4 to 6 seconds, and then breathe out for 7, and then stop again, and then breathe in deeply, count to 4, and that reduces your heart rate immensely. And it's something that when you see it on a monitor, it makes it very easy to practice it at home, that you definitely try to do these breathing exercises that would calm yourself down, because once you use the whole capacity of your lungs, you not only reduce your heart rate to calm yourself down, but you get more oxygen into your whole body. That means your brain has more oxygen, you can concentrate better, you can think a bit better, your muscles, they get more oxygen, you relax, you start relaxing, and that gives you time to make better decisions, whether not to be very hesitant, or to make a wrong decision because you're panicking. And it gives you also time to think, okay, what to do next, to get help, to call someone who can also help you get out of this panicky mood. And the next is sleep. Sleep is super essential, especially because the body at night, it has the time to renew the cells, you get more energy. And social media detox, we talked about it earlier, or 10-15 minutes ago, that social media, it's a very good tool that can help, but it is also something, especially amongst young people, which can be extremely challenging, overwhelming, addictive as well, and it can cause sleeping issues, anxiety, absolutely 100%, because you keep on whether I was listening to a story the other day that some people, they go on holiday, they have like the best holidays of their lives, they come back to work on Monday and they have a really not so wonderful day, and they go on social media, scroll through photos of other people who are maybe just posting pictures of themselves in Bali, and then the whole world crumbles because they feel like, oh God, I'm not enough. My holiday was not good, and even though just the day before they had a wonderful day. And social media can cause people to be in competition a lot of the time. You think, oh, that person has a better body than I have, you become anxious. And if you do that, of course, before you go to sleep, your mind starts racing of all the things that you do not have. And even though you're living in abundance, you start not seeing what you do have, and just looking at the people, even though whether it's photoshopped, whether they're just putting up those pictures for just 1 second, or they're not even in that place, but your brain cannot decipher between what is real and what is not real. So you're thinking, oh God, their lives is better, and you start becoming anxious. You start questioning whether your job is okay, whether you're getting enough money, and you worry again and again and again, and you do not get enough sleep. So it's very important that on a daily basis we detox from social media, whether it's taking like an hour break. Sometimes it could be good just for a week, just just a whole week, just not going on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, just taking a break and just focusing on getting good sleep, doing exercises, and things like journaling. Journaling can be very, 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 very good. I practice it myself. Just writing before you go to bed, like it could be just three things which went well on that day. Three things which you were good at. One thing that you were good at, one thing that you would like to get better at for the next day, and when maybe just one thing that you're grateful for. Those are the things which can be very, very empowering. Just writing those small things down, and there was one patient of mine, this I have to really share because it's a very sweet story. She was over 100 years old, and I used to go to her house to do like a house, how do you say it, to like house visits, so to say. And she told me something which I still practice even today. I mean, this patient, I saw her, unfortunately she passed away 3 years ago. I saw her over a period of 5 years, and like once a week, and every time she used to tell me the same story, that her mum taught her before she goes to bed, she has to say like three things which she's grateful for. And this is something that I practice myself today, and something that I also gave to my daughter, who's 8 years old, that she does as well, that we do that ritual before you go to bed, that you say three things which you're grateful for. And just for a short story. And another things which can also help to deal with anxiety is like avoiding alcohol before you go to bed, avoiding drugs, of course, and doing things like progressive muscle relaxation, quit smoking, spending more time in nature, being mindful. Being mindful means also being present. Try to be present in the moment. That means when you are doing the dishes at home, you just do the dishes. And because we always to think, okay, multitasking, it's something which is amazing, which is good. And but once you do multitasking, like 60% of the tasks that you're doing, you can't really do them well. So by just focusing on one task at a time, it will really, it really changes your whole way of living, I think, because whether you're eating, you're concentrating on what you're eating, you're not eating, watching TV and talking to people who are somewhere overseas, or FaceTiming, for instance. You're just concentrating on your food, and there you can even taste, the food tastes absolutely different, whether you're sitting in front of the TV eating, or in front or sitting with other people on the table and eating. The food tastes absolutely different. And that is what mindfulness for me means, just being in the present moment at that time. And another thing, of course, which is very, very important, of course, you can do all those tools, practice them at home, but when you are suffering from anxiety disorder, it's always good to see your GP. And in other countries, you can straight go to a psychologist and try to get some help, because fear is real and seeking help is very, very important. Sometimes, of course, one needs medication that to help you go through that phase. And I mean, the medication, it's not it does not help you 100%, but it can for some people where anxiety disorders, when they can get very severe, it might be a solution for the meantime. At the same time, doing psychotherapy, very, very important. And one thing that I would also like to talk to you about is I was listening the other time to also a very, very great motivational speaker called Les Brown, when he was saying, you know, sometimes fears can we, in our mind, we can make them look so big, but in reality, they are very small, or they're not as fearful as we make them to be. For instance, he was talking about a guy who used to be afraid of a dog in his street where he lived, and it's a bulldog, and it was like barking at him every morning, and he used to be so afraid to go to work. And every time when he crosses the street, the dog would just bark at him, and he would just run and have his heart racing, sweating, and thinking, "Oh Jesus, you know, that's a nightmare." But one day he decided, you know, to take action, and he picked up a stone. He didn't hit the dog. He picked up a stone and went in the direction of the dog and pretended as if he's going to hit the dog. But then he noticed at that moment that that dog didn't even have teeth. And then he put the brick down, and he just started laughing, because he couldn't not imagine that in his mind he had this huge picture of this dog biting him. But at the same time, the dog, which was just barking, it didn't even have teeth. And that could be a message that, you know, maybe you take for today, that sometimes we can make our fears bigger than they are. And it's very important to, you know, to sit with yourself and is either write it down. What am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of that thing? And what can be the cause of my fear? Is there something bigger? So is there something behind the fear that I have? Can I get help? Some fears, like I said, they are real. They are real, and sometimes they're also like medical causes for the fears that we have. Sometimes there's trauma which lies behind fear. It's something that we didn't talk about today, like the causes of fear. It's something that we will talk about more intensely in the second part. What are we afraid of? Or what are you afraid of? In the next podcast in 2 weeks. And it's also very, very important to also know that not only fears are real, and it's a natural thing that the body is reacting that way because it's trying to protect us. It was made, those symptoms that the body are giving us, like heart palpitations, sweating, breathing problems, when we are afraid, they're made to protect us from danger. But then the body after that, it relaxes. But once the state of it becomes a spiral that it does not stop, the state of fear, it comes even in situations which are not dangerous. It's when we have to think about the word anxiety, because anxiety is something which is more than fear, which is a spiral of our thoughts, where we are trapped, where we are like in lockdown. And also very important to also know that one can heal from fear, one can heal from anxiety with the right people beside you, with the right support, with the right doctors, with the right psychologist, with the right people who love you, who support you, who understand you, and also being patient with yourself, and also letting yourself know, okay, you are going through this, but it's not going to be this for the rest of our lives. And it's okay to seek help. It's okay to be afraid, whether you're 5 years old, whether you're 10, whether you're 40 or you're 70-year-old, whether you're male or female, not excluding all the other genders. But it is very, very important to know that everybody is afraid, and we are afraid of something. The magnitudes are very different, the causes are different, but we can get help to deal with it. We can help ourselves on a daily basis with small tools that I mentioned before. And I would love to see you or to hear you, or love for you to join me for the next podcast, where we talk more deeply about the causes of fear, and also where we go more into detail with the different tools that you have and what one can do. Also where we live. I mean, at the moment we are at the moment in Hamburg. For those who are listening who live in Hamburg, the next time we can talk about where to go, where to get help, especially when you're young, and that you to know who is your first person that you can talk to when it comes to professionals, and that we will talk about absolutely. And as for today, thank you very much for listening to Radio Top Afrique, for tuning in into my podcast Doc Mash at Mindful Space, and thank you Radio Top Afrique for making this possible. Thank you DJ Bergspace, check him out, very nice DJ, makes wonderful music, for supporting the podcast and also creating this beautiful music for us. Thank you everyone for wherever you're listening. I wish you a wonderful Saturday evening or a wonderful Saturday morning, or when you are in Australia, you're probably sleeping, you listen to the podcast hopefully the next day. I would love to take this moment to also say thank you to all of my friends who have been massive supporters in the past 3 weeks. I am so grateful, not even the past 3 weeks, in the past years of my life. Thank you so much, and take this opportunity to say that I'm really, really super, super grateful for your massive support. Thank you, and wish you guys a wonderful day. Bye.